you ready to learn some Spanish? Alright, well, we'll start with some greetings. Hola means hello in Spanish. It's one of the most commonly used greetings, and you're going to hear it a lot.
Hola!
Hola!
Another greeting that you can use, say it's early in the morning, like on a school day, is buenos dias, which means good morning.
Hola!
Buenos dias! And now that you've learned how to start your conversation, you need to learn how to end it with some useful goodbyes. One of the most simple goodbyes is adios, which plainly means goodbye. Adios.
Another goodbye you could use would be hasta luego, or luego, which means just see you later. Hasta luego.
And now that you've covered greetings and goodbyes, what if somebody else were to walk in? What would you do then?
Hola.
ENSL. Ella.
Dang it.
Now that you've learned some hellos and goodbyes, what if you were meeting somebody for the first time? Wouldn't you want to find out their name? Which is Como te llamas. That loosely translates to what's your name. And make sure when saying it that you say llamas instead of llamas, because it is spelled with a double L. A lot of people do that, so don't do that. Llamos is good, llamas is bad. And the way to answer that is you would say, my name is, which in Spanish you would go, me llamo, so M-E space L-L-A-M-O. Make sure you don't say mi llamo. Don't do that. So then you say me llamo, and then you say whatever your name is. Another question to ask somebody is how they're doing, which is ¿Cómo estás? And you can answer this in several ways. If you're doing good, you'd say bien, which means well. Or you could say mal, which is bad. So what happens if you're having a conversation with somebody and a third person walks in? How would you introduce them?
Hola.
¿Cómo se llama ella?
And that loosely translates to what is her name. So I would respond with ella se llama Isabel. And so I just gave him her name in Spanish.
Hola.
Buenos dias.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien.
Hola.
¿Cómo se llama ella?
Ella se llama Isabel.
Hasta luego.
¿Cómo estás?
No.
Adios.
Adios. We're going to talk about how to say numbers 1 through 30 in Spanish. Number 1 is uno, 2 is dos, 3 is tres, 4 is cuatro, 5 is cinco, 6 is seis, 7, siete, 8, ocho, 9, nueve, 10, diez, 11, once, 12, doce, 13, trece, 14, catorce, 15,
16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29, and 30 is 30. And we'll review those real quickly in Spanish again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. We'll now be learning how to say the months in Spanish, and you must remember when talking about months in Spanish, the months are not capitalized.
Alright. January is enero. February is febrero. March is marzo. April is abril. May is mayo. June is junio. July is julio. August is agosto. September is septiembre. October is octubre. November is novembre. December is diciembre.
We'll now review those real quickly again in Spanish. Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre.
Okay, now we're going to learn how to ask and give the time. How to say, what time is it, and
To give the time, you usually use son las, then you would add in the hour, and you would put E and then the minute. But if it's past 30, you would round up an hour and then say menos, and then the number of minutes till it's that hour. So you would say son las, say, 2:20, which would be 2:20. If you're dealing with one, you can't say son las since one is singular. So you would then have to say es la una, and then either E or menos, and then your minute. So if it's 1:27, the time would be es la 1:27. If say it's 12:45, so you'd have to round up to 1, so you'd still use una. So then you would say es la 1:15. So now that we've learned numbers, we're going to learn how to ask for and give the date in Spanish. So to ask what the date is, you say ¿Cuál es la fecha?
Now, in order to respond to what the date is, you would have to say SL and then the number of the month. For example, SL Ocho de Julio, which means it is the 8th of July.
So now that we've learned how to ask for and give the time, and ask for and give the date, we're going to go over some examples. So we'll start with the clock. Since your minute hand is on the 25, or on the 5, which means 25, and your hour hand is a little bit past the 6, the time is then, so you would answer with son las 6:25. Son las 6:25.
Alright, now we have the date October 9th. So you would say SL 9 de octubre. SL 9 de octubre.
Now with this time, this time, since your minute hand is past the 30, you're going to use menos. And it's on the 40, which would mean 20 till, and since your hour hand is past 2, you'll round up to 3 now. So the time for this is son las 3:20. Son las 2, son las 3:20. 20.
Now we have the date January 21st. So to say this date, you would say SL Viente Uno, which means 21st, de enero. SL Viente Uno de enero.
And this last clock, your minute hand is pointing to the 2, so it's going to mean 10, and your hour hand is pointing to the 1. So remember that you have to use es la una. So the time for this clock is now es la una y diez. Es la una es la una y diez.
Alright, now we will be learning what verbs go with those pronouns. You remember yo means I and goes with the verbs soy and estoy. Tu means you and goes with eres and estás. El is he, ella is she, and usted is you, and it's the more formal version of you. And they all go with S and esta. Now, nosotros means we all, and that's with males included in the group, and nosotras means we all with just girls. And they go with the verbs somos and estamos. Ellos means they with boys included. Ellas means they with girls included. And ustedes means you all. And they go with the verbs son and están. In the Spanish language, there are 10 subject pronouns. Yo means I. Yo. Tu means you. Tu. El means he. El. Ella means she. Ella. Usted is you, but more formal. Usted. Nosotros means we. Nosotros. And nosotras also means we, but nosotras with the A is when you have just girls, and the O is when you have just guys or girls and guys. Ellos means they. Ellas means they, but again with the A and the O means boys and girls or just boys, and A means just girls. And ustedes means you all.
Now that you've learned the 10 subject pronouns in Spanish, you need to learn which verbs go with which pronouns. So we'll start back with yo, which meant I. And the verbs that go with yo is soy and estoy. So you can say yo soy or yo estoy, and those both mean I am. And the next one is tu, which again means you. So the verbs that go with that are eres and estás, which both mean you are. And now the next box is again with the he, she, and then the formal version of you. So the verbs that go with that are es and está. And those all mean he, she, is. Nosotros and nosotras, which meant we, the verbs that go with those are somos and estamos. and those mean we are. And the final group of pronouns, which went they or you all, the verbs that go with those are son and estan. And those are your subject verbs.
Some different examples of combining pronouns with this verb are yo estoy bien,
I am good.
tú eres de Indiana,
You are from Indiana.
él es un estudiante,
He is a student. Ella es mi amiga.
she is my friend,
Nosotros somos buenas.
we are good,
Ellas son mal.
they are bad. Now we're going to learn the difference between the verbs ser and estar. Ser is used with identification, possession, date, day, time, and where you're from. And that's permanent. Like, say you're from Indiana. That will always be permanent. Like, you can't change that. A star is used for locations and feelings, and it's not permanent because it changes quickly. Like, 1 minute you can be sad, and then the next someone might ruin your day, and then you're mad.
So now that you've learned the differences between the verbs ser and estar, and you've reviewed which verbs go with which, we're going to learn a few useful phrases that you can put together with those to create some complete sentences. Some good ones to know are amigo, which means friend, de, which means from, bien, which means well, most people think it means good, estudiante, which means a student, professor, which is a teacher, muchacho or muchacha, which means boy or girl, señor, señorita, and señora, which mean Mr., Miss, and Mrs. And now that you've learned some phrases, let's put some of those into example sentences. So you could say, yo soy de Indiana, which means I am from Indiana, and that deals with where you're from, so that's permanent. Yo estoy bien, which means I am well, and you use the verb estar since you're dealing with your feelings. Tú eres un estudiante, which means you are a student. And so you're a student for quite a while, that's at least semi-permanent, so you use the verb ser. Ella es mi amiga, which means she is my friend. And since she's hopefully your friend for a while, that's at least semi-permanent, so you use the verb ser. And ellos son mal, which means they are bad. And ellos están mal, which means they are bad, which hopefully changes soon.